Proximity to whiteness got a lot of you minorities fucked up because you forget that proximity to whiteness is not whiteness.
Corporate culture is white supremacy culture, and the 10th characteristic of white supremacy culture is
reading today. Anti-intellectualism isn't just concerning because individuals don't know how to read or write at a high level. It's concerning because they don't know how to recognize patterns that are happening in society. They don't want you
that white culture is racism. White culture is white supremacy.
Hello YouTube family, welcome back to Brilliant Reacts YouTube channel, and on today's episode we're going to react to certain videos about the white supremacy. White supremacy isn't just about hating groups. It usually starts as an individual, the way we think, the way we talk, the way we work and service. And for the Black American, the world seems it doesn't usually cease, but we usually feel it every day. I know many of the Black Americans may carry the fear, the silence, trauma, and even they may end up being depressed. Let's watch these videos, and kindly don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and comment down below your opinion concerning this.
White people are suffering from white supremacy too. I had a conversation with a client the other day who is a professor. They teach about white supremacy, African American rhetoric, and XYZ, and different concepts in the diaspora. And we were talking about how white people also are affected and are suffering from white supremacy as well, in the way that white people have no connection to their own culture or any culture whatsoever other than whiteness, white American culture. So an example of this would be that my friend and client who asked his class, how many of you participate in mutual aid? Nobody raised their hand. None of the white people raised their hand. He goes, okay, let me rephrase that and says, how many of you have gone to a friend's house and their parents cooked for you? And then everyone raised their hand. And he goes, right, this is mutual aid. The way that white people have had to come up with a word for community, aka mutual aid, shows that they are suffering from white supremacy as well. While they think they're benefiting, you're actually not allowed to participate in things that would be beneficial to you because of white supremacy. And it's made to seem like Black and brown people are the only people who participate in these things or who would benefit from these things. We, as POC people, we've always known and always participated in mutual aid or community because that's how we thrive. And we are not just self-focused, we're community-focused, community-oriented. And so the things we do are not just for ourselves, they're to benefit our community because that's how it's always been in our cultures. And while white people for so long have tried to strip us of our culture, we still have roots that tie us to our ancestors and our culture and these different practices that have been around long before we've ever existed. And if white supremacy didn't exist or wasn't so prevalent, white people would be allowed to connect to their culture as well. But they've been so brainwashed into believing that having culture or allowing Black and brown people to participate in their culture is a threat to them, and that when we engage in culture it's part of our culture to be violent or oppressive, but really that's white supremacy culture. That's what y'all created. It's not in our culture to overtake others and be violent unnecessarily and hateful and oppressive. That's just not in us. Our cultures are uplifting and bring community together. We dance, we sing, we create, we craft, we tell stories. That's our culture, and that's many of y'all's culture. But white people refuse to see it that way. And so really, white people are keeping themselves in this vicious cycle of disconnection, of violence, and then want to be like, well, slavery was 300 years ago, like, why don't you just forget about it? No, like, you're still keeping that shit going, and it's actually having negative impacts on white people as well.
Proximity to whiteness got a lot of you minorities fucked up because you forget that proximity to whiteness is not whiteness. It may grant you access to certain systems and privileges and benefits, but never forget who granted you that benefit and that privilege. And that is a painful lesson. I think in the next coming years, we're going to see the Latinos for Trump really, they're going to learn that in throwing everybody under the bus, throwing your brothers and sisters under the bus, you were also seated in that bus as well. You may have been on the front seat of the bus with all the privilege and whatever, but you were still in that bus. There are certain groups of people who may benefit from their proximity to whiteness, whether they have fair skin, blue eyes, blonde hair, maybe they bleach their hair. Maybe in their respective countries, they are considered white, guerrita, whatever. Y'all forget that in the United States of America, you are not considered white. Nobody is looking at you like you're white. Your last name is Hernandez, Ortiz, Garcia, Rodriguez, Colon, fill in the blank. I don't care if you have white skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. They're going to clock your last name, your accent if you have one. They're going to clock it. We're all clocking it. In the US, you will never be considered white. I don't care if you put on that funky ass red hat. I don't care if you scream MAGA 2024, 2028 from the top of your lungs. These people are always going to remind you that you are not white. And so when ICE pulls you over, because we know that they're racially profiling brown people, when they pull you over, how is ICE going to be able to differentiate whether or not you are a MAGA supporting Hispanic or one who illegally crossed the border? How is any of us supposed to be able to differentiate who's who? The answer to that, I'm going to answer my own question, is that they can't. None of us can. There's no differentiating. ICE is literally detaining illegally, I don't know how they're getting away with it, U.S. citizens, naturalized citizens. They're getting away with this shit. They don't care. Even the restaurant owners who voted Trump, shocked that their employees are not showing up to work anymore. They can't get people to work in their funky ass fucking restaurants. I know y'all saw that one lady sitting down with that news reporter saying, oh yeah, I voted Trump, but didn't think it would affect me. And that's really the key. That's really the tea. You guys don't think it will affect you. And that's the funny thing about throwing everybody under the bus. You forget that you're also seated in that same fucking bus. It's because y'all think you're better than everybody. And that's the problem with being a minority in this country. The model minority, the token minority, the token blank. You put in whatever race, ethnicity you want to put in. Whoever gave you that tokenship can always take it right up under you and take it away from you. That's the funny thing about being put on a pedestal. Whoever puts you on that fucking pedestal can always take it from you. This is the same country that told the Irish when they first came over in the 1800s, you guys are not white enough. Irish need not apply, remember? American history. This is that same country that told the Italians when they started coming over in the 1900s, y'all are not white enough. They told the Italics they're not white enough. They were discriminated against. And what happened when the Japanese started coming over? They threw the U.S.-born Japanese citizens in California in internment camps because Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. They threw American citizens in internment camps in California. Read up on it. World War II. Jewish European immigrants started coming over. Guess what? They were told, not white enough. And now the Latino community is starting to get their wake-up call. You may be white in Guerrita or whatever in your respective countries, but out here, you're not. And that's okay. But stop. Y'all threw everybody under the bus, and for what?
Corporate culture is white supremacy culture, and the 10th characteristic of white supremacy culture is fear of open conflict. Fear of open conflict has burned so many careers, it is not even funny. This is the most corporate thing I've ever heard. If you are harmed at your job, there is an unwritten expectation that you are just supposed to shut up and take it. This is what it looks like in practice, and this is from dismantlingracism.org. It says people in power are scared of expressed conflict and try to ignore it or run from it. And notice it's saying people in power, so the people that actually can do something about the conflict. When someone raises an issue that causes discomfort, the response is to blame the person for raising the issue rather than to look at the issue that is actually causing the problem. This is what is ruining so many people's careers, a characteristic of white supremacy, that fear of open conflict. There are so many people that have been relentlessly bullied, antagonized, and attacked in the workplace, and when they bring the issue up, they are seen as the problem. This is what makes these environments so insufferable. The people in power refuse to take any responsibility for the team dynamics. And in fact, they willfully ignore the problems in the organization and call it leadership. In my opinion, this is a nightmare for neurodivergent people for so many reasons. First, your justice sensitivity alarm is going to get fried in an environment like this. There are so many injustices happening all around you, and you are not going to just be able to look the other way. The other reason is that you're going to be seen as different. You just fundamentally stand out as different in an environment like this. And if something happens to you, you're not going to just take it. You're going to want to fight. And even if it's justified, it's not going to matter because you standing up for yourself, you advocating for yourself is going to be seen as what the problem is, not the harm that's being caused to you. They want you just, once again, to shut up and take it. So why is this happening? It's happening because one of the tenets of white supremacy is that fear of open conflict because people believe that you're supposed to be polite. You're supposed to be good. And if you're not doing that, you're a problem, even if something bad is happening to you. That means they see raising issues as being impolite, as being rude, as being something that you're not supposed to be doing, no matter what it's about. That means that they only care about optics. They do not care about integrity. When it comes to conflict, they will happily bury it, then address it or fix it, no matter how detrimental it is to the organization. So often, the people that are getting fired are not the people that are actually causing the problems, but the ones that are pointing it out. Here are the antidotes from dismantlingracism.org. It says, role play ways to handle conflict before conflict happens. So actually invest in the idea of conflict resolution instead of just running and burying your head in the sand. Distinguish between being polite and raising hard issues. Don't require those who raise hard issues to raise them in an acceptable way, especially if you're using the ways in which issues are being raised as an excuse to not address those issues, which makes sense. Once a conflict is resolved, take the opportunity to revisit it and see how it might have been handled differently. So I don't know, like learn from the things that happen that go wrong in the organization and actually get better, because otherwise it's just a Groundhog Day over and over and over again. You're just really reliving the same bullshit every single day where people pretend like all the toxic shit that's happening is not happening. If the company that you are working for is just blindly following the rules of white supremacy and they don't seem like they even notice that it's happening, then they are not going to change. They have no reason to change. They don't even see that they have a problem. So that means you are going to continue to suffer. If you're not in a position of power at this company, then you are again, I'm going to say it again, at the mercy of it. So that means that sometimes your best option to not participate in white supremacy is to walk away. If you're a neurodivergent woman and you're sick of corporate and you're ready to build something on your own, but you don't know where to begin, I've opened a community. We have 7 members so far, including myself, and we are working through together how to get out of corporate. We'd love to have you. We need to do this together because this system is designed to keep us trapped in our shitty 9-to-5s.
I have never been more disappointed as a white woman. I have been deconstructing a lot. I have been deconstructing the Mormon faith that I grew up in, but not only that, I've been deconstructing my own white culture. And what I've come to realize, and that's been honestly probably not a huge surprise to anyone else, but for me it was a huge surprise to realize and learn that white culture is racism. White culture is white supremacy. How did I grow up not knowing the names of people like Emmett Till, of people like Solomon Northup, of people like, I did learn about Harriet Tubman, but you know, she was pretty mainstreamed, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. All 3 of those, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, I was taught growing up, like for example, Malcolm X, he's a rioter. Martin Luther King, he wasn't good. He was a plagiarizer. He plagiarized his work. What? What? And back then hearing it, be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he doesn't deserve a whole day to himself. He was quintessential for changing the civil rights movement. Watching Solomon Northup's 12 Years a Slave was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching the Nottoway plantation burn and see my palm-colored relatives say, oh, how sad, oh, it's gone. After learning what happens on those plantations, especially after the 12 Years a Slave, what do you mean you want to celebrate love and eternity and marriage on a place that was so heavily focused on hatred and ownership and torture and rape? I mean, I also I watched on YouTube Unseen Memoirs and Unseen Memories back when in the 20s, when they went the last generation of born slaves, born into slavery individuals, and they would stake them down, each arm, each leg, so you can't curl and whip them. But not only that, as if completely shredding their back open isn't bad enough, they're gonna go ahead and sprinkle salt on top and let you fry there in the sun. And most of the time, you end up not making it. You die from getting beat to death. Now, my ancestors, during that time, were creating a cult. They weren't rich enough to own slaves, so they tried to scam their own color, and they created a cult that is now the Mormon Church. Still very widely successful today. Yes, Joseph Smith is in these veins, unfortunately so. The Mormon Church on its own is so heavily racist. The fact that Joseph Smith allowed black people into the church and then all of a sudden, why not take black people's money too? You know, like, of course, but then they took that back and said, well, you can't get all of it. And it's just like that in America, from our healthcare system to every single thing. Voting, everything. You've seen that here in Atlanta with the issues of people not able to go and vote. Like, how dare we do that to them? This Nottoway plantation, it blew my mind that people that are still living in that area can track their ancestors back to that plantation, and to think that there are people having weddings there, that is nuts. I would be there every weekend fucking protesting if those were my ancestors. Like, what do you mean you are celebrating? If that happened to me and my ancestors, I would want to burn it all down. The whole acre, all of it. And the wealth. Because you know who really deserves that land? The people who made the money from it. The people who built it. The people who cultivated it. Not the people who whipped. We gave Native Americans land. Where is their retribution? And it's up to us as white women who are deconstructing the patriarchy and breaking away from our ties to the white man to say, hey, that's not appropriate. That is racist. What you are doing is racist. That's a microaggression. Whether you want to think so or not, what you're saying is not appropriate. 13th, or that movie, Khalif Browder, how he sent that man to hang himself because he wouldn't take a plea off of something he, poor child, knew he didn't do. I need more resources. I need more education. I follow the White Woman Whisperer and Knitting Cult Lady. I love them. I'm deconstructing my white privilege, and I need help. I need more resources. I am so ashamed. I have so much guilt and shame when I see my people online sad that, like Shyla Hendricks. Oh, what the fuck? What do you mean? What? Are fucking racist. White people, the only culture we have and that we know is racism and colonization. That's all we know. That's all we know. And that's so sick. It's fucking disgusting. And I hate that I'm 30 years old and
White supremacy relies on having an uneducated population, and that is exactly what Trump's administration in the White House is creating today. Anti-intellectualism isn't just concerning because individuals don't know how to read or write at a high level. It's concerning because they don't know how to recognize patterns that are happening in society. They don't want you to recognize the historic danger of banning books, or realize that in 2023 alone, more than 3,000 books were banned, mostly about sexuality, race, and gender. They don't want you to recognize that erasing history is dangerous, like how Florida changed slavery to involuntary relocation, or that the GI Bill that built the American middle class, including my family, excluded black veterans. Why? Because if you understood the way that racism is built into the foundation of this country, you would demand change. You would have to if you have any sort of conscience. From education to housing to policing, go back 30, 50, 70, 90 years and the pattern is all there. White supremacy needs you to be uneducated and complacent in your current status. So what is the most radical thing that you can do today, especially as a white person? Get educated, read a book, stop dismissing critical race theory as woke propaganda and actually look at the foundation of what we are saying, and you will literally be shocked.
The more I awaken, the more I realize how much New Age spirituality is rooted in patriarchy and white supremacy. Both white supremacy and patriarchy thrive on creating a system where there is some unachievable standard that everyone has to live by. And if you do not meet that standard, you are not enough, you are not good, you are inherently wrong in some way. New Age spirituality tells us that you have to do these certain things to be high vibrational. And if you don't do these things, you are unhealed, unevolved, and you are beneath us. A lot of them aren't saying that, but they're implying that. But what New Age spirituality is not considering is that everyone is here to live a different spiritual truth. And that spiritual truth is found in each of our individual hearts. And when we do things that feel good to us in our heart, that bring us joy, that raises our vibration. Even if those things are not on the laundry list of approved New Age spiritual activities. New Age spirituality wants us to live by the mind. This is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is high vibe, this is low vibe. When you live by your heart, you throw out the concept of good, bad, right, wrong, high vibe, low vibe, because you trust yourself enough, you love yourself enough to follow what you feel and hear, no matter what anybody else says. I am on a personal mission to help decolonize spirituality and bring everyone back to the truth that lives inside of their own heart and help you find the courage to follow it, because that is where true freedom.
The thing about white privilege, and I'm gonna touch your hand when I say this, so hold my hand, is that the struggles and trauma you went through suck. But they didn't happen because you were white. And that's the thing. I will go through things in every space I occupy on every continent in every country that you won't understand because I look like this and you look like that. Example, we both might be broke by the end of the day, but when you popped out the womb, your mother's first thought was not, what is a racially ambiguous, gender ambiguous name I can give you that will give you a leg up in life? Your mom just gave you a name. And I can explain to you all of the well-researched, well-backed up ways that privilege has colored your life in a way that you are yet to understand. But before you listen to me, you will decide that you hate me because that is easier. And that is a privilege that you get to have. You get to maneuver the world with your anger and hate based on your trauma without ever thinking about the nuances, much less living them. And that is the privilege that you choose to not understand.
White people need to reject the terms racist and white supremacist because these aren't just insults, these are terms that are used to subconsciously trick you into being okay with your own genocide. For all the people out there who are saying things like, why can't we just be individuals? Why do we have to focus on race? Well, the reason why is because everybody has been hyper-focused on race for a very long time, except for white people. And because of this, the altruism of white people has been exploited down to the bone. If white people were as racist and evil as we're taught every day in our textbooks, in our media, and in our entertainment, then how come non-white people from every corner of the planet are literally dying every day to immigrate into all the white and Western countries? Think about it. And for all the people out there who are calling me a racist or calling me a white supremacist, I know I have no hate in my heart and I don't need to validate anything to you. But when you use that kind of terminology, all you're expressing to me is that you are effectively a slave. Because when you use that kind of terminology, you're effectively behaving as a mouthpiece for the establishment. And you're proving to me that you have no sovereignty over your own brain. The other thing I gotta be honest about is that at this point in time, if you're a white person and you're not being called a racist, you don't have any balls, okay? There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself. I'm not saying we should be disrespectful to other people or that we should harm other people. I would never advocate for anything like that. But don't ever apologize for who you are, especially when your ancestors built the known world. So don't lean into the anger, but lean into the truth.
White people really convince the entire world that they are the superior race. They are the most attractive race. Their beauty standards are the best. Everybody should aspire to look like them. And if you don't, you should fucking hate yourselves. Yet, on a global scale, They are the minority. Races that have the highest populations are Asian, East Asian, South Asian, and people of African descent, not white people. If white supremacy didn't exist, none of this would matter. Who cares which race has the highest population? But they care. That is why they have fought so hard to maintain control, to maintain the image that they are the most superior, the most attractive race. And I don't know why the fuck they do that, and why the hell they've done that, and why they continue to do that. And I know some white people are going to see this and be triggered and say something like, you guys just want to be the victim, as if white supremacy still doesn't exist and benefit them today. And I'm not saying that you as an individual are responsible for these issues, but the truth is, white supremacy does exist. These power dynamics do exist. Racism does exist. White people have done an excellent job at convincing the world that they are superior. And you've even convinced yourselves. The programming, the propaganda, wow.
Talk about. I can't believe that in 2025, y'all will get y'all black asses on this app and say you would rather be managed by a white man than somebody who looks like you. I don't know if it's goddamn delusion or deep, deep spells that y'all are under. Riddle me goddamn this. If white men are such good managers, such good leaders in the workforce, why is there so much structural inequality in the workspace? Why is there so much pay inequality in the workforce? I'll wait. Okay. This is really a tired ass Twitter topic that circulates probably every performance cycle. Not making no accusations in terms of what that's about, but I'll let you come to that conclusion. But let me put y'all up on some game real quick. If you have such an easy peasy breezy time being managed by a white man, it's probably because they see you as the help and not a peer. Hold that real quick. And let me just add that I am 12 years into a corporate career. I have worked at every size company from small to large, public to private. And I am in senior leadership and have been for some time. So I know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's unfortunate, but a lot of minorities do not recognize the hierarchies and power dynamics that are always at play in a corporate space because we are often left out of them. And if you are left out of them, you can't compete. So yeah, Bob may give you an easy time as your manager. He's not going to bring you into the difficult conversations with the C-suite because he's reserving all that face time for him. Or Bob's going to give you a lot of special projects because that's really the shit he don't want to do himself. Or, Bob's not going to hold you to any sort of standard because he has no intention of promoting your ass anyways when it comes time for calibrations. Now, is that my personal anecdotal experience? No. Over the past 12 years, I've done very well in my career under white male leadership. I've been promoted. I've been centered in terms of my growth. I have achieved pay equity to my knowledge. But that's not what the research says as a collective. That's not what the data supports as a collective. The data says that your black ass is not getting promoted by Bob. The data says Bob is not fighting for pay equity for your black ass. The data says Bob is not creating a psychologically safe workspace for you. So the fact that you would get your black ass on this internet and say those things is just like so unfathomable to me. It also tells me that a lot of you underrepresented minorities who agree with that shit should never ever be in a leadership space. Never ever. Because you clearly have some bias yourself. If you think that another underrepresented minority is going to be such a bad manager, automatically you have some bias you need to work through. You don't need to be managing nobody yourself because you have some prejudice that is clearly impeding you from treating people as equal in the workplace. Now, you can attempt to argue with me about this subject, but you can't argue with the Harvard Kennedy School and their research. You can't argue with McKinsey and their research on the matter. You can't argue with Lean In and the research they've done on the matter. You can't argue with the Bureau of Labor statistics on the matter. You just can't. And I'm just truly blown away that in this current political climate that we live in, especially here in the United States, that otherwise intelligent people would really fix their mouths to say that it is white men who belong atop any hierarchies that govern our society, especially when it comes to how we make money. Are you well? Are y'all okay in the head?
Supremacy causes human rights violation like there's the slavery, colonization, genocide. There's that psychological damage and systematic inequalities. The Black Americans, they should speak up. They should learn to communicate. They should retaliate to avoid such occurrence. My opinion concerning this is there is proximity to the whiteness. And this involves the interaction between the white people and the black people, concerning on how they communicate, how they dress up, and how they behave around them. Because this interaction, appearance, first impression, like matters, and their closeness also, the way you will want to be treated, like in the corporate culture, you may find that there is that minority and the majority. For example, if the minority are the black people and the majority are the white people, for example, when a black person wants to raise an issue, she or he may feel discomfort, as maybe our issue may not be taken into consideration, and because those who are in the power refuses to take responsibility, and this may result to the injustice, there's conflict resolution, and it's kind of discrimination at the workplace. And when you find the black people speaking up, they're being taken care of communication. If you're afraid to communicate, you may end up being traumatized, physical damage. You find the other group is being privileged over the other, which will lead to discrimination and misuse of power. The minority should learn how to talk, and they should know how to retaliate. Shouldn't be afraid to communicate, as it may seem that this may lead to enslaved mentality. And it's 2025. It is 2025 and the system hasn't changed. It's just the language. The narrative still continues that the white supremacy still exists. The issue is not that we are just black. The issue is the system. What we are not here to survive anymore. We are here to be whole and to speak up the truth and to reclaim what has been lost. We shouldn't focus on the negativity, like the hatred, the torture, the enslaved mentality. We should look upon the foundation of white supremacy and on the ways on how we will react upon them. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the love. Thank you for supporting me. Kindly subscribe, watch, like, share, and comment down your opinions about this. See you on to the next one.